difference to me. Get me back to the playoffs.
Have you ever prayed for a miracle and then received it?
Marvin Mims caught the ball!
And then wasted it. And then prayed for another miracle, got it, and wasted it again. That's exactly what happened as the Broncos lost in the final seconds of overtime to the Bengals.
Touchdown, Bengals win!
I could literally hear God answering Bo Nix's prayer to let the world know Bo leaving is actually cool, not just a passing fad. He was like, Bo, I like you, man. You're a real-ass mother-praising Christian. I'll hit you with the sick-ass doink by the Bengals kicker Jed York or whatever in overtime. Then all you gotta do, Bo, is put some touch on a pass to Troy Franklin. Oh, fuck, you overthrew it! You overthrew it! Sorry, bro, I'm out. I'm gonna go check on the OG Russ Wilson, see what he's up to. That's what God sounds like in my head. The Broncos are officially miracle wasters, falling 30-24 to the Bengals. This team is so diametrically opposed to miracles that when they watch the movie Miracle about the 1980 US hockey team, the fucking Russians win. But only when they watch it. The Bengals bungled, but the Broncos belligerently out-bungled their bungledness in the new worst to the 33rd loss, whatever. And thank you guys, we had 25,000 people in the live stream for this game. Holy fuck, you guys are crazy. It didn't end well for me, but I appreciate you being there. We're almost at 682,000 subs, and the best way to support this channel is with my code THATSGOOD at Underdog. I didn't hit on any of my picks in this game. We've done such a great job. If you're interested in playing daily fantasy or in pick'em games, do it at Underdog. They've been rocking with this channel for a long time because if we get 10,000 signups, they pay me $1 million. And we are getting close. We've got till the draft to get there. We're over 4,300 signups. I'm starting to feel like I'm gonna be the Broncos in overtime, coming close to this goal and just whiff. I'm gonna do something to mess this up, aren't I? My first question is why? Why, Joe? Why'd you have to be so goddamn good, Joe? Why'd you have to be so good? 412 passing yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks, 39 completions. Why, Joe? Why? I thought getting into the playoffs, we'd be receiving Bo jobs. But now it feels like we gotta give 1 million Bo jobs just to get in. And we know when we get in, we're probably getting our ass rocked. And that's okay. For the second week in a row, Denver faced a win, and they're in the playoffs scenario. And for the second week in a row, they lost. This time in horrific, unthinkable fashion. It came down to overtime, and it shouldn't have come down to that at all. This game was a duel between a guy nobody thinks really has a clue as a head coach versus a guy who talks a big game but can't find his balls when it's time to put them on the line. And eventually Zach Taylor lucked into victory while nothing lucky happened to his team. It's a weird thing to happen. The first 3 quarters of this game were largely uneventful compared to the 4th quarter in overtime. Cincinnati spent most of that time just possessing the football, racking up yards, but failing twice on 4th down. Yes, twice on 4th down. The Broncos went 3 and out after both 4th down stops, or close to it. Now, since he got into the end zone with a first half touchdown to T. Higgins, and their 10-3 lead felt nearly insurmountable the way Denver was moving the ball. But Denver finally answered back with a Nix to Sutton touchdown, their 7th scoring connection of the year, and it was all knotted up at 10. Then, insanity ensued for the remainder of the game. T. Higgins beat Riley Moss for a touchdown. To be honest, everyone on the Bengals was beating Moss like a drum for most of the game, but this is also what we're gonna call foreshadowing.
They beat Moss!
The kind of foreshadowing that makes me want to slam my head through this table, but I won't because I know that will be bad for me. But will I actually do that at the end of this episode? Riley's playing through a knee injury. Nobody's gonna care about that because he may have set white corners back 50 years.
A white corner playing at, say, 80% is typically called a backup safety or a slot receiver. Denver needed an answer, and Bo Nix responded by uncorking a rocket shot to Marvin Mims for a 51-yard touchdown. And 51 yards is not the whole story. That ball traveled 67 yards out of Nix's hand, the most air yards from a QB pass in 2024, and the longest completion of the next-gen stats era, going back to 2016. I know that's not that far, but it's still pretty fucking impressive. It was an utter bomb, and I think we can all put aside any worries about the rookie's arm strength going forward. His accuracy, well, that scares me the same way Bengals fans are scared when they hear the words Marvin Lewis and Andy Dalton. Marvin Lewis, Andy Dalton. Marvin Lewis, Andy Dalton. Marvis Lewis and Andy Dalton. That touchdown tied the game at 17, though, and it finally felt like the Broncos were possessing the all too intangible momentum. A 51-yard TD will get you more excited than Rob Gronkowski and a spelling bee, and his only word to spell is 69. Denver needed a turnover to end the ensuing Bengals drive. They sure as shit weren't going to stop the Bengals on third down. The only thing that actually stopped the Bengals was fourth down. And of course, their own receivers dropping at least 5 passes in this game, including a Jamar Chase touchdown where Moss was in coverage. And honestly, Jamar Chase dropping a touchdown might also be a miracle.
People that are having trouble making their miracle happen.
But with the game on the line in the fourth quarter, Denver got this crazy-ass turnover from the rightful Defensive Player of the Year, Pat Surtain, when PS2 stripped the ball from T. Higgins. Both Higgins and Jamar Chase finished the game with over 100 receiving yards, but when Surtain was covering Jamar Chase, just 3 receptions for 27 yards on 6 balls thrown his way. And as you can see, Surtain covered him for a big percentage of the game. That momentum shift was real. But on 3rd and 15, Nix gives the ball right back to the Bengals, throwing it to Jermaine Pratt, and that play probably ended up being a blessing in disguise. Nix's hand was actually hit as he threw the ball there, so that was a really nice play by the Bengals defense. Now, the reason Denver was in 3rd and 15, a terrible screenplay that lost 6 yards. It didn't work all fucking night, but Sean Payton kept dialing up these bullshit screens and quick passes behind the line of scrimmage like Russell Wilson was still his QB. Since he gets the ball back after the pick with 2:30 on the clock, and we're poised to either drag the clock down to just seconds remaining and kick a field goal or score a touchdown to take a 7-point lead and force Bo Nix to march downfield and score a touchdown. And of course, they couldn't really make up their mind. This is where Zach Taylor should have cost his team the game. Running back Chase Brown had a lane to the end zone. I think the Broncos were just trying to let him score. He decides to slide down to run the clock and force Denver to take its last time out, but he landed awkwardly, and that forced Cincy into a situation where they had to burn an injury timeout, which was actually a huge break for Denver.
Then the miracle can happen to you.
The very next play, Burrow snuck the ball up the middle for a touchdown, leaving Denver with 1:29 to try and tie the game. And Nix was incredible, threading the needle a couple times to Sutton and traversing the field with some tempo, but they were faced with the 4th and 1. And the game on the line at the 25-yard line with no timeouts. That's when Nix rolled out right, which he seems to do no matter what the play call might be, and he tossed up a prayer. And I mean, I'm on my fucking knees and I'll suck you know what to make this right type prayer to Marvin Mims, who somehow miraculously comes down with the ball between 2 Bengals defenders. An insane catch when the Broncos needed it the most.
Caught! Touchdown! Touchdown! Mims got the ball!
Now, we have, in the last few games, figured out without any doubt that Marvin Mims is indeed a stud, and Denver nailed that pick a few years ago. He was explosive, he was clutch, 2 touchdowns, 103 yards, and the recipient of the Joe Burrow Award in Cincy, playing against Joe Burrow himself. Unfortunately, I'll soon explain exactly what the Joe Burrow Award is. If you count the T. Higgins fumble and the Mims touchdown, that's 2 big miracles handed to the Broncos. The kind of miracles that brought our boners back stronger than ever.
It can happen, then the miracle can happen to you.
Not. Sean Payton had a choice to make, though. He could either ride the momentum that the Broncos had at their back and go for 2 with the chance to win in regulation, or he could take Joe fucking Burrow and the Bengals, who had been owning the ball most of the game and getting whatever they wanted on offense into a 10-minute overtime period. I think you know what choice Sean made. He said, I've got 37 different screens and short passes that can lose us yards here. I've got 2 50-yard bombs that will work, but nothing to pick up 3 yards for 2 fucking points. Overtime it is. Denver lost the toss, but the defense clutched up and got its 7th sack of the game to get the ball back. They got to stop. That was a Zach Allen sack, by the way, and he's got to be an all-pro because he added 3.5 sacks on Saturday to push his season total to 8.5. He's been a monster in the interior, and he pretty much single-handedly kept the Broncos in this game. The Bengals punted for the first time in the game in overtime. Our 3rd fucking miracle.
Gotta have this miracle, and it can happen tonight for all of you.
Not. At this point, any score would end the game, right? Even a safety? Yes, but shut up, Houston. Shut up, Houston. The Broncos only got 4 yards on their first 2 plays. And with a chance to convert, what do? You dial up the most cursed play call of the Broncos season. A deep pass to Troy Franklin. It has not worked all year. Usually because Troy Franklin drops the ball, but Troy beat his man off the line. He was wide the fuck open. This time Bo put too many air yards under it. A Boverthrow, if you will. And the Broncos missed their chance to walk it off and were forced to punt. I thought it was over here, and for the 98th time in this game since he inflicted death by paper cut to the Broncos defense and matriculated the ball down the field, finally getting them into position to win the game. An easy field goal. Doink!
Doink! Stunning!
He fucking doinked it! He doinked it! Evan McPherson was injured, so his backup, Cade Yord, doinked a 33-yarder that would have ended the game. Our 4th fucking miracle. Just spit on that shit and then rub some fucking human feces on that miracle because we knew they were gonna do nothing with it. It was just, you was that. It was that.
Want it every day of your life, and it can happen to you.
Not. All Denver needed to do was run out the clock, and they could have gotten a tie to reach the postseason. A tie would have worked for us. Not exactly the sexiest way to get in, but after 9 years, you better believe I was ready to take a tie. What happened? 3 and out. You know it. It's a 3 and out. So Estime got stuffed, and Mims had a screen that went nowhere. Remember those screens? Then on 3rd down, Nix threw across his body for an incompletion. An inaccurate overthrow. Absolutely maddening. They had to either run, and drain the clock or go for the kill shot, but instead, Sean Payton couldn't pick a lane and ended up doing neither. Denver picked up 6 yards in overtime total, and the Bengals amassed 119. And the fact that the Bengals needed 3 possessions to end this game is almost as embarrassing. Almost. After a sickly 39-yard punt from Riley Dixon, the Bengals, Joe Burrow dropped back, uncorked an FDR to T. Higgins. That lands inside the 5, and they got the game winner as T. Higgins beat Riley Moss to the pylon for the touchdown. Game frickin' over. Like I said, the Broncos were a win from getting into the playoffs. They still are, but they've just lost 2 games in a row in very demoralizing fashion. This one will go down as a Sean Payton loss, I think. He had the chance to end the game in regulation. They could have either won the game with a 2-point conversion or at least lost the game with some fucking dignity. But he opted to take a top 3 QB into overtime on the road, rolling the dice against an offense that have carved him up all game. Sean Payton said after the game,
I'm going to answer this now. All right, going for 2. We knew a tie, though, was for us just as beneficial as a win. Touchdown, Bengals win!
I think that was the worst possible decision. It was completely spineless, testicleless, whatever you want to call it. It was a jellyfish call, except that jellyfish can't even fucking sting you. The Broncos, to be perfectly honest, were outplayed the whole game, and were lucky to be in a spot where they could win it in OT. And no one would have faulted Sean Payton if they had gotten denied on the 2-point play, because at least they would have played with their nuts hanging out. He made a cowardly call last week against the Chargers when he chose to punt instead of go for a late fourth down, and he made an even more cowardly call in this one. I think Sean Payton is a really good coach. I do, but he absolutely cost his team a chance to win this game. A lot of Broncos played their asses off in this game. Pat Surtain was a predictable lockdown against his opponents. Zach Allen had maybe his best career game. Bo Nix had some bad misses, but he also played well enough to win and continued to be just crazy good in the clutch at the end of regulation. Marvin Mims had a coming out party on national television, but instead, he was the Joe Burrow of the Broncos today, because no matter what he did, his team lost. Riley Moss said after the game that
sometimes you eat a shit sandwich and you gotta own it.
Broncos ate a massive shit sandwich in Cincinnati, which is somehow worse than even Skyline chili. That shit is caked all over their face right now, and the only way they can clean it off is with a victory next week over the defending Super Bowl champions.
Not.
Please subscribe here on YouTube. Don't forget to check out my sponsor, Underdog. Link in the description. You know the code. We're just... God damn it. That one hurt. That one hurt.